Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Buckle up indeed, and welcome to Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. This is the fastest-paced soccer show in SoCal, covering all the week's news, highlights, and more from LAFC, the Galaxy, Angel City, Orange County Soccer Club, and, of course, the Major Arena Soccer League's own Empire Strykers. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, J.R. Liebert, affectionately known as The Scarfs. Thanks so much for joining me on another absolutely jam-packed episode of Soccer in 60. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on all your platforms and make sure to check out Soccer in 60 over on YouTube. Joining me on the show today, the Soccer in 60 OG himself, an Orange County Soccer Club superfan, one Timmy Kolotz. Timmy K, how are you, my friend?
Scarf, it's good to see you, my friend. Great to see you, Cara, as we talk another week of footy.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And yes, joining us once again, the Canadian Soccer Hall of Famer herself, Cara Lang Romero. Cara, thank you so much once again for joining us here on Soccer in 60.
Happy to be here. I missed you guys last week.
I know. Don't worry. We missed you too. I had to deal with just Timmy for most of it. It was a long show, but we got through it. No problem. We got a lot.
Our team's better this week, Cara.
There you go. We got a lot to talk about as LAFC continues their CONCACAF Champions Cup run. While the Galaxy's unfortunately comes to an end, the County Boys maintain their perch atop the USL Championships Western Conference, while Angel City watches many of their players perform on the international stage. And for the Strykers, this will be the start of like a 4 to 6 week postmortem on the 2025-2026 season, as the voice of the Strykers, Philly Christian Philemon, will help us unpack this season of highs and lows amidst their recent playoff exit. And Kevin Baxter, that's right, LA Times and soccer writer extraordinaire, joins us here on Soccer in 60 for a two-part interview. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first, let's check in with our friends over at Omnitrans. In partnership with the Empire Strykers, experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strykers. Don't miss out on the excitement and make every moment count at Toyota Arena. Ride with Omnitrans to your next Empire Strykers game. Well, we buried the lead in saying the CONCACAF Champions Cup run continues for LAFC. But before that match, the first real bump in the road, the first real hiccup for LAFC on the season, on Saturday, April 11th, LAFC traveled to Portland to take on the Timbers, or rather most of LAFC did, right? No Hugo Lloris, no Son Heung-min, no Sergi Palencia, in order to rest up for their match against Cruz Azul, which we will get to in a minute. It was a heavily rotated 11. Thomas Asal would start, not necessarily finish, the match between the pipes. Artem Smolyakov, Kenny Nielsen. We got two teenagers on the pitch for LAFC, and Jude Terry and Matty Evans. Tyler Boyd, Nathan Ordaz. This was not the LAFC that we are used to, but an incredible effort by this second 11, if you will, for the most part. Cara, let's get right into it. First and foremost, I know we can talk about several different things about this match, but all anyone was talking about at the end of this was the goal by the 17-year-old Jude Terry, an absolute golazo. Cara, just talk about how high the ceiling can be. Now, I'm also going to say this. Cara happened to score a goal for her national team at the age of 15, so we've got a real expert on teenager scoring here. Cara, what do you think about Jude Terry?
I mean, you said it, golazo. It was probably one of, if not the nicest goals for LAFC so far this season. And to be 17 years old and just to even have the guts to take a shot like that, you know, it was perfectly placed, just beautiful curling shot around the goalkeeper, side netting. My jaw hit the ground when I saw it. And I think everybody else's did too. And I think Jude Terry was even surprised. But also when you're that young, I talked about it before with with Angel City as well, just how being a little bit naive, you can use it to your advantage. And I think that you see that from young players. They have the willingness to have a go from distance, and they can surprise you and everybody else in that moment. But Jude Terry's ceiling is so high. He's already got international experience at the youth level, and now he's performing for LAFC, for his club team. I mean, what a great opportunity for him against Austin in a game where I think the fans really breathed a sigh of relief to see this rotated squad because of the game against Cruz Azul coming up. And so he saw his moment. He took it. It maybe wasn't the outcome that LAFC was hoping for, but definitely a bright spot in Jude Terry's performance and a number of the other youngsters' performances as well.
Yeah, you had a teenager-to-teenager assist as Matty Evans was the one that made the pass to Jude Terry. But Timmy K, what the soccer gods giveth, the soccer gods tooketh away. The 96th minute, I mean, basically the last touch of the match, unfortunately. Yeah. Kevin Kelsey, who, by the way, on my podcast, Defenders of the Bank, was my player to watch for that match for Portland. I was a little upset I got that one as right as I did. Talk to me about, though, Cara said it. That wasn't the result that LAFC wanted. 2-1 loss to Portland, ending all the streaks, right? The shutout streak, the undefeated streak, all of that. But to see that kind of effort in hostile territory in Portland, yes, they lost it at the death, but the overall effort from a heavily rotated 11 was really special.
Yeah, I think it's actually, you take away the scoreline, I think it's exactly what LAFC, the management, the team, everybody, what they wanted to see. And they got exactly the result they wanted. Didn't show up on the score sheet, after Portland totally deserved that late goal. I mean, it was just a hard-fought goal to get it at the end. But to have that heavily rotated, the second 11, as you will, fight to the death with a pretty good Portland team, I mean, come on. You talk about embarrassment of riches on our show. They've got an embarrassment of riches with going a second 11 deep, and they played really, really well. We lean into Jude Terry and a couple of these other guys, but you got David Martinez. You got 10 other dudes on that team that really played their guts out against Portland.
Yeah, it was a great match for sure for this heavily rotated roster, because looking forward, looking ahead. And by the way, I'm a Loyola Cub, and so is Cabral Carter. So I was happy to see him get some minutes for the first team there for the first time. But again, in that, not through the rear view mirror, but in the windshield there was looming Cruz Azul down in Puebla. And I mean, talk about a gutty result. This was an MLS club going down to Mexico, Cara, and really gutting out what was an absolute punch to the gut in the first 15, 20 minutes and weathering body blow after body blow. But it almost reminded me a little bit, Cara, of those Rocky movies where he endures all that punishment and then right at the end comes away with a haymaker. Just what do you make first and foremost of the overall effort that LAFC showed in a very tough environment to play 7,000 feet up in Puebla?
I think the fact that they were able to grind out the result, they didn't win, but they still came home winners in Mexico and in a very, very hostile environment against some atrocious reffing. So it wasn't just a tough Cruz Azul that they were coming up against. They were coming up against some really bad reffing. CONCACAF was CONCACAFing in this match. Everything was going against LAFC the majority of the match. That PK call on Sergi Palencia was a joke. Should have never been called. Maybe aggressive, overly aggressive from Palencia, but the striker made a meal of it, and the ref should have known that. He shouldn't have called it. But if he was trying to control the match, he did the opposite. Cruz Azul was baiting LAFC every chance they had. So what probably stood out to me the most was just how LAFC was able to keep their cool, because, for example, that 2-foot tackle on Buanga, how dangerous was that, right? There were so many moments where where Cruz Azul was not going for the ball whatsoever. And I'm surprised LAFC didn't get more cards for retaliation. Major credit to them for keeping their heads this match, because they had about 100 reasons not to. It's unfortunate LAFC will miss Buanga and Segura in the first leg of the next tie for card accumulation. But honestly, considering how many cards were handed out and how dirty Cruz Azul was playing, I think LAFC was lucky to walk away with only 2 players lost for the next tie.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, losing number 99, Denis Bouanga, who, by the way, got the PK in the final moment of the match for the 1-1 result. That's going to be really interesting. I know David Martinez has really been a light of inspiration for LAFC on the front line. We know what Sonny can do. We saw what Nathan Ordaz did last season as well. So, and look, it's an interesting week for LAFC as they both kind of lick their wounds from that Cruz Azul matchup and have to look ahead to 2 matches next week. A number 2 versus number 3, San Jose coming to BMO Stadium. That is a very good San Jose squad led by Bruce Arena. And then Colorado comes to BMO Stadium on Wednesday, April 23rd. So no rest for the weary on that one. But again, for LAFC to come out of that, it was I think the largest or tied for the largest aggregate win for an MLS team over a Liga MX team as well. So we're going to hear a lot more about LAFC and a little bit of Galaxy as we go to part 1 of our interview with Kevin Baxter. Gunnar sat down with Kevin Baxter to talk all things LAFC and Galaxy. And then through the magic of editing, we're going to see Rob Halon and I recording a segment about the Galaxy in just a little bit. So let's cut over to the first part of the interview with Kevin Baxter right now.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'm so excited to be joined once again today by a legendary journalist who has a long track record of covering soccer and hockey for the LA Times, but has also covered a number of World Cups, Olympic Games, World Series, and Super Bowls over the years. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner and one of the foremost experts on LAFC, the LA Galaxy, and Angel City FC. We'll once again talk to him about all 3. I'm so excited to welcome back once again to Soccer in 60, Mr. Kevin Baxter. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Always a privilege to have you on. Let's get started and let's talk LAFC. The LAFC recently lost at Portland, right? But also on Tuesday got a massive result at Cruz Azul. The black and gold absorbed a ton of pressure down in Mexico, but managed to get a draw in the end with Denis Bouanga scoring very late, which then saw them through to the Champions Cup semifinals, of course. They had rotated heavily at Portland and lost it late in that one. In retrospect, how do you rate the lineup decisions made by Marc Dos Santos in these 2 games, and what did you make of the performances?
Well, the performance, the second leg in Cruz Azul was interesting. LAFC went down there leading that series on aggregate 3-0. So, if barring a disaster, they were going to win. Cruz Azul obviously had to come out. They needed to get at 4 goals to win that since they didn't have an away goal. So, the way the game unfolded, I think, was probably pretty predictable. The statistics are crazy. LAFC had only 28% possession. They got outshot 31-6. 10-3 on target. Hugo Lloris had a huge game, had 8 saves, which is unusual because he's had a great season. He hasn't given up a goal in MLS yet. He's had a great season, but really hasn't been tested. And so I he's a little up there in age. I know he's the greatest goalkeeper in World Cup history, but he's older now, and I think the LAFC has tried to protect him by playing with a stout back line. But, he stepped up and did really well. The only goal he gave up was on a penalty, and LAFC's only goal was on a penalty too. So they're off to the semifinals. We're recording this before the Galaxy play Toluca, who Toluca goes in with a 4-2 aggregate lead in the second leg. So it's probably going to be LAFC against Toluca. But as far as the rotation in Portland, Sonny didn't play, used a backup goalkeeper, a lot of backup players. That was expected, I think, too, as well as the result in Mexico was expected because LAFC just played so many games. My one question, though, was whether this was the time to do it. Probably it was. I don't want to second guess Marc Dos Santos. He's off to a great start this year. But the momentum LAFC had built, they hadn't lost an MLS game, hadn't given up a goal. Never been done before. 6 games into the season, hadn't given up a goal, and they rotate, give up 2 goals, the second one stoppage time, lose their first game. I mean, they were going to lose eventually. You would expect they were going to give up a goal eventually. You would expect, but I'm wondering what that does to the momentum now with the draw in against Cruz Azul. LAFC now has a 2-game winless streak. For a team that was unbeaten. So. Yeah, maybe a fluke, but you know what? They face a really tough San Jose team this Sunday at BMO. San Jose also 6-1 on the season. San Jose has given up, I think they've given up fewer goals, or maybe one more. It's really close. LAFC has given up 2 goals. I think San Jose has given up 2 or 3. And San Jose has actually scored more than LAFC. So Bruce Arena's team coming down to play against Marc Dos Santos, this is going to be a real challenge. Yeah, I don't think anyone inside the LAFC locker room thinks they're scuffling a little bit. But again, 2-game winless streak, never happened under Marc Dos Santos in his short history.
Great transition into my second LAFC question. I kind of want to get your take on Marc Dos Santos and the first 2 months of the season overall, if we can do it quickly. I know it's a tough task, but supporters of the black and gold notoriously are among the most demanding in the league, despite the club going unbeaten and winning 5 of its first 6 MLS games. There were very loud critiques of the head coach, saying he was playing too pragmatically. He wasn't using Son Heung-min correctly. Am I correct in assuming that criticism is mind-boggling to you? And how would you rate LAFC in 2026 so far?
Yeah, I think the criticism is way out of line. I mean, if you're a better coach than Marc Dos Santos, then apply for the job, and then you can go run the team. The fans, I get it. The supporters are the lifeblood of any team, and soccer is different from any other sport in that way, that it's a club, and the supporters are the club. And the coach and the players work for the supporters. I get all that. But the team has lost 1 game. They've given up 2 goals. They're in the Champions League or Champions Cup semifinals. I think Marc Dos Santos has done a fantastic job. And I just don't understand the criticism. They've been so close to perfect. And the other thing is, the supporters are not there at training every day. They don't know who has a knock, who doesn't have a knock. They don't know maybe who is not on the same page, with their teammates. So sometimes those pairings are very important. If they're not there in the locker room, they're not talking to these players. If this was the Galaxy we're talking about, and the team was struggling, or if this was Sporting Kansas City, yeah, okay, fine. And maybe you could start saying some things about the coach's decisions. But, I mean, LAFC, really? They've won more no team has won more trophies than LAFC since they came into the league. They have more wins, more goals, and more points than any team since they came into the league. LAFC fans are spoiled. This team is really good. Sit back and enjoy it. And you know what? Another thing with Champions Cup, if Marc Dos Santos wins this next leg, which we believe will be against Toluca, could be possibly against Galaxy, if he gets to the final, this will give LAFC 3 coaches in their history. All 3 coaches have coached in a CONCACAF final. No other team has been to the CONCACAF final more than 2 times. The Galaxy's been there 2 times. I think that's the most of any MLS club. So once again, more history for LAFC.
Yep. And with that let's move on to the Galaxy. You already mentioned them earlier, right? Speaking of Champions Cup, we're recording this right before the Champions Cup second leg against Toluca at home. Prior to the huge win at Austin, the voices demanding Greg Vanney be let go were getting louder. The Galaxy was 12th in the West. The attack had been struggling. They were winless in 3. Now the 3 points at Austin have given the club maybe a little bit of breathing room. But what do you make of them so far in 2026? And how secure do you think Vanney should feel? And then also, how much of your answer depends on the performance tonight against Toluca?
Well, the performance, not the result tonight against Toluca, because, I don't see the Galaxy going through. But, yeah, Greg Vanney was definitely on a hot seat. I think they poured some ice water on that with the results at Toluca. They lost 4-2, but they played very well. And the last Toluca goal was really a fluke goal. If they had been able to get out of there with a 3-2 scoreline and 2 away goals, I think they look really good coming in the second leg. That didn't happen. But then they went straight from Toluca at altitude, went straight to Austin, and beat an Austin team that maybe was a little bit overrated. They're out of the playoff picture right now, and so maybe they're not as good as we thought. But the thing with the Galaxy, I think Greg Vanney's job is safe probably through the end of April for a number of different reasons. One, because the team did put together 2 pretty decent results after 2 horrible results. Remember, they lost at Portland when they had a man advantage for over 70 minutes, and they lost that game. Or actually, they drew that game. And then they came home and played very poorly against Minnesota. So what the Galaxy need to do, and maybe they've done it with Toluca and Austin, is they need back-to-back good performances. They've had some good games this year. The Charlotte game was a really good effort, but at home. But they need some more consistency. And maybe these 2 results, Toluca and Austin, maybe they showed that guys have figured out Greg Vanney's the way Greg Vanney wants to play. What I've heard from people around the Galaxy is that Greg Vanney is managing the correct way. He has good game plans. He has good ideas, but it's just not translating onto the field. The players aren't doing what he's asking them to do. Whether they can or can't, I don't know. But it's not working. And so, that, and I don't understand why, because 6 of the regular starters have multiple years with Greg Vanney. They should know what Greg Vanney wants already. So that's kind of a problem. And I need to see some more consistency before I really believe the Galaxy have turned the corner. Greg Vanney has a 3-year contract, so he's in just a few months into a 3-year contract. It's going to be a very lucrative one, by the way. It's going to be hard for the Galaxy to swallow and let that coach go, but you can't fire 26 players. So if the Galaxy don't figure it out by the end of April, really busy April, once they get into May and things calm down a little bit, if things aren't going better, I think the Galaxy need to think about whether there needs to be a change at the top.
Mm-hmm. And just a very quick follow-up. Do you think so? I've read in the Galaxy supporters forum a little bit about that maybe the coach didn't have that much to do with the MLS Cup win. Maybe it was just all Riqui Puig, and he just leaned heavily on Riqui Puig. Is there anything to that in your opinion?
No, I mean, they won 19 games that year. It was the most in Galaxy history, tied the most in Galaxy history. They were a great team. They had 4 guys scored 10 or more goals. A lot, all of that comes from the coach. The players that had a great season, and Riqui Puig was an important part of that. I will say that, missing Riqui Puig hurts a lot. And I think one criticism I would have is it does seem like the Galaxy are trying to play the same system without Riqui Puig, and that I think is a big problem. What they don't have right now is they don't have a midfielder that can link between the back line and the front, someone to bring the ball up. That's what Ricky did. Marco Royce doesn't drop back that far. I saw they played him as a false 9 in Austin. Whether that's what he does going forward, I don't know, but I think that's finally a concession that Marco Royce is not the replacement for Riqui Puig. They had the replacement for Riqui Puig, by the way, a guy named Mark Delgado, who's at LAFC. You put Mark Delgado in this Galaxy lineup, especially a guy that played for Greg Vanney in Toronto, and Greg Vanney said he was always the quarterback on the field. He knew what I wanted and was able to get the team to play that way. That's what they're missing right now. If Mark Delgado had not been let go by the Galaxy after the championship, I think we're talking about a totally different Galaxy team. But he's not there. He's at LAFC, and they have not been able to replace him or Ricky.
Yeah, completely agree. And luckily you are here, and you'll still be here for a few minutes. We'll talk Angel City with you. Let's take a break here and bring you back in just a little bit later in the show. Thank you so much for now, Kevin Baxter.
And to think that's only part 1 of our interview with Kevin Baxter. Kevin, thank you so much. We'll get to part 2 in just a little bit. But now, through more magic of editing, one half of the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast team, it's Rob Halone. Rob, thanks so much for coming back on to talk some Galaxy.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Just fresh off the stadium. So, I got all the emotions swirling around.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all those emotions because it was certainly a roller coaster of a week for the Galaxy. They begin their matches that we're covering on this week's show with win number 150 in the illustrious coaching career of one Greg Vanney, as he becomes the 8th to get to that number as they go into Austin FC. Not an easy place to get a road win and get the 2-1 result. Of course, Galaxy couldn't make it easy on you, Rob. They get the first 2 and then give up a late one, almost give up a second. But let's talk about that match real quick, because I know most that are listening want us to get into the second leg against Toluca. But those first 2 goals, first right off the training pitch there, Maya Yoshida on the back post from Marco Royce. that's what you come to expect. And 701 matches into his professional career, Yoshida can still get up.
Yeah, I mean, he did show his worth. Last year on a couple of occasions where the Galaxy were chasing the game, Greg would deploy him as an auxiliary striker late. So we know he can score some goals when needed, and he showed it here for the Galaxy, getting them off the jump early there on the road, and that's exactly what they needed.
And it seems a little bittersweet to talk about now knowing what happened in this Toluca match, but Eric Tommy looked fantastic doing all the work. I mean, what a great individual effort. Of course, if you give the man an acre, he'll take the acre, but a fantastic effort to put it away by Eric Tommy.
Yeah, it was his first one for the Galaxy, so props to him, and it was well taken. I mean, this is what the Galaxy have been sorely missing, a guy to take the ball and just drive at the defense. And to be fair, he gets acres of space there on the left. He's able to drive that ball forward, and he opens up his hips and puts it right where he wants to, and in the corner pocket there of Brad Stuver's net. So well taken by him. But yeah, no, he was a threat going forward several times. Got through the middle of that Austin defense there in the midfield.
Yeah, and Brad Stuver, he's been one of the more reliable set-it-and-forget-it keepers, and I know that's what Galaxy is looking for, especially now in one JT Marcinkowski, and I feel like that match against Austin, JT played pretty well for you guys in net.
Yeah, no, if not for JT Marcinkowski, it probably would have been an Austin win. I mean, he makes an early save on ex-Galaxy player Christian Ramirez, wins a G. But right there in the third minute, he stamps his authority on the match, and he denies pretty much a point blank shot. Then later in the match, he gets his hands to a free header as well, and Bureau gets a chance there at the very end as well. And something he does throws Bureau off. So good performance. I mean, I think he ends up with 5 saves, and I mean, it looks like he's starting to run away with this number 1 keeper spot here for the Galaxy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think about his performance, as now we'll segue a match that maybe cooled the seat a little bit for Greg Vanney in Austin. I've got to ask you, after the 3-0 loss to Toluca at home in front of mostly, as you were there, we were talking about a pre-show, mostly Toluca fans in the stands. It was very red there at Dignity Health Sports Park. What's the seat feeling like for Greg Vanney now after this?
It's gotta be feeling warm at the very least. In as it pertains to the fans, I mean, the Galaxy was once again met post-match with chants of "We want better," but then for the first time, open defiance from the stands, just outright shouting Vanney out for the first time. Previously, you hadn't seen that. You had seen them shouting, "We want better," "Wake the F up." But this was the first time, like I said, you got a Vanney out. But, I've said several times on Lacuna Galaxiana, I don't think unless the results are really dismal, like 6-7 games in a row without a win, I don't think you're gonna see Greg Vanney depart the Galaxy before the World Cup break.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? We saw what he was allowed to get away with for the first 15 matches last season. But that being said, look, this was a tall order coming in, right, Rob? You had Toluca, who was already up 4-2 on aggregate, though there was plenty of hope because 2 away goals, definitely big for the Galaxy. And they had to push numbers forward from pretty much the jump to try to make up that deficit early. I know Greg Vanney was saying all the right things. We don't need to get it all at once. We don't need to, push everybody forward right away. But they absolutely did. This is the class of Liga MX over the last 2 seasons in Toluca. And so pushing all of those numbers forward, unfortunately, the dam breaks very, very early for the Galaxy in that 10th minute. Jesus Gallardo with the goal, and the Galaxy needed 3 to advance even after giving up that goal. So is it more of this is what the Galaxy had to do to kind of push all their chips forward? Is the result really that fair to land at Greg Vanney's feet, or was this more of just Toluca is just a better club right now?
Yeah, there's definitely a golf and class scarf. I mean, Greg was asked about, why the such a gulf exists. I mean, and let's face it. I mean, there are very few teams in MLS that can actually play with DeLuca, if any, on their day. I mean, they're a dangerous club, right?
Yeah.
But Greg mentioned, the standard things that that an MLS coach would have mentioned. The fact that this team has been able to stay together over several seasons and play in big matches together and win big matches together. And that's something you don't really get in MLS because of the salary restrictions. And I mean, you saw the Galaxy get torn apart. I mean, you saw Inter Miami as well lose players and retool really well. And to a certain extent, a couple of years ago, LAFC also lost a good amount of the roster. So again, you don't really see that in Liga MX. And so there's definitely a gulf, and you saw it on the field today. I mean, it just seemed like DeLuca was everywhere they needed to be at the right time. And part of that is preparation, part of that is luck. But I mean, as they say, you make your own luck.
No, you're absolutely right. Paulinho made his own luck 5 times in the 2 matches in this leg. So he's someone that Galaxy supporters are going to be seeing in their sleep. Let me ask you real quick as we wind down here on the segment. All was optimistic as Joseph Pansel comes onto the pitch for the first time since March 7th, but unfortunately,
welcome back, JP.
Yeah, he has to come on because of Eric Tommy. Let me get your thoughts. Eric Tommy felt like he blew out his hamstring on that one. Real quick, your thoughts on what you're going to be missing with Eric Tommy gone.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was just starting to round into form, and he was just starting to look like the pivotal piece there for the Galaxy, driving through the middle as a progressor. And now it doesn't look good for Eric Tommy. I mean, Greg said he's not sure. It doesn't look like we're going to see him for the foreseeable future. However, hopefully I'm wrong. But good luck to him and swift recovery.
Yeah, we'll see how they recover. Saturday, April 18th at FC Dallas. Rob, thank you so much for joining us here on Soccer in 60.
Guys, thank you so much.
All right, and a big thank you to Rob Halone, one half of the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast, for joining us once again to talk the Galaxy. Let's check in with our friends over at National Core. National Core is one of the nation's largest nonprofit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. And to learn more about National Core and their mission, head on over to nationalcore.org. All right, we're going to bring on the voice of the Empire Strykers, one Christian Philemon, to talk a little bit of a post-mortem. Philly, over these next 4 to 6 weeks or so, we're going to pick out a couple of burning questions that all fans and lovers of the Empire Strykers want to talk about as this season ends. Real quick, we do want to mention that the Empire Strykers have announced 3 weeks of fantastic soccer camps and clinics in June and July. Head on over to theempirestrykers.com. That's Strykers with a Y, for all the information about those clinics at Alta Loma Junior High School. All right, Philly, it's been a week since the unfortunate ousting, the exit of the Empire Strykers at the hands of the Milwaukee Wave, who, by the way, will be playing for the Ron Newman Cup. A week for things to kind of settle down and settle in terms of how you are feeling and things that you are reacting to. Let me get your thoughts on how you're feeling a week out from the unfortunate playoff exit.
Sour as an eye popper, the candies that we used to enjoy as kids. And seeing the Milwaukee Wave now find themselves in the MASL final, a team that we beat quite handily during the regular season, it only stings that much more. It just leads me to believe that we did have what we needed in order to make a deep run in the postseason. So needless to say, it still very much stings.
Yeah, it's got to be rough seeing them get all the way, of course, now to Ron Newman Cup. Let me just ask you real quick as an aside, are you rooting for or against the team that knocked you out to win the whole thing?
I have a lot of friends on that team. I mean, I love Ian Bennett. I love William Bonaheny. There are a lot of good people on that team. There are a lot of good people in the MASL in general. But I mean, I'm going to say if there's a team that I was looking forward to seeing, or I'm looking forward to doing something big, would be a team that's never won in the MASL, and that's the St. Louis Ambush. They're taking on the San Diego Sockers. It's going to be a tough contest for them, but there's a team that I have a soft spot for. I'm an underdog kind of guy. You know that from my fandom of bad baseball teams in New York. So to me, I like the underdog. It's the Ambush.
I love it. Philly's an underdog guy. I was a Tom Brady fan for 20 years, so that tells you the difference between the two of us. All right, Philly, last year's breakout star was Munir Alami. He had an incredible campaign. Let me ask you to kind of put in a nutshell the season of Munir Alami, the second year now. Here he is 1 year removed from that breakout campaign. What do you think of Munir Alami's performance this season?
So it mirrored last year in a lot of ways. Munir scored the very first goal of the season for the Empire Strikers his rookie year. He would go on to score 15 goals and have 10 assists, finishing off with 25 points, averaging 1.2 points per game. This season, Munir Alami would score the very first goal of the season once again, and he would go on to play one more game than he did the prior year and would basically just surpass his total from last year by so much. 16 goals, 12 assists, 28 points, 1.3 points per game. So he literally had a replica-esque like season, but he is a consistent scorer. He led the team for the most part of the season. He's become a reliable player. So at this point, we always expect the Munir to have at least over a point per game.
Yeah, Timmy, between Justin Stinson, obviously Marco Fabian, and now to have a third proven reliable option, how good is that for whomever is behind the bench next season? If it's Berto Palmer or whoever it might be, how good is it to have those three options at the top of the attack?
I think it makes all the difference in the world. And like Philly said, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth because they had all three pieces this year. They just didn't put it all together in that last, maybe 15, 20 minutes of the Milwaukee series. Yeah. And I think whoever is coaching this team next season is, a wealth of scoring ability between those three players. I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch them.
Yeah, the cupboard is certainly full on offense, that's for sure. Philly, let me ask you, last year's breakout star Munir Alami, who is this year's breakout star for the Empire Strikers in your opinion?
Just because he had a bigger track record, I mean, people might look at Walter Diaz. I'm looking at Alan Perez. Alan Perez was consistent all year long, played in over 21 games, had his career year when it came to scoring goals, had a big hat trick game against Milwaukee. To me, I mean, he's been with the team since 21-22. I feel that he was the one because he had a much longer series of runs. He had a much more games that he played than Walter and some of the other guys. To me, it was Alan Perez. You got to love it from the local kid from Van Nuys.
Yeah, giving the love to the local kid. Also, a guy who just grinds it every single match for the Strikers. So, Munir Alami, last year's breakout player of the year. But you heard it right here from the voice of the Empire Strikers himself, Christian Philemon. Philly, we're going to have you back several times over these next few weeks so that we can really break down the Empire Strikers 2025-26 season. We'll see you soon, bud.
I have a lot to say about that, so looking forward to it, fellas.
All right, we're going to kick it back over to Kevin Baxter for part 2 of his interview. So let's give it back over to Gunnar and Kevin Baxter.
All right, and we're back now with Los Angeles area soccer expert and legendary LA Times writer Kevin Baxter. Kevin, let's talk Angel City, right? You went on the record in early 2025 saying that the club was, quote, a mess, and then later, quote, less of a mess. There's been tons of turnover on and off the field, including last summer's arrival of head coach Alex Straus, who could not get them into the playoffs at the time. 4 games into 2026, ACFC sits on 3 wins from 4 and has the most goals scored in the NWSL, despite having played 1 fewer game than each of the top 3 clubs. In your view, are things finally coming together on and off the field? What have you seen from them?
Yeah, they won their first 3 games. They lost in a stoppage time goal late, like 8 minutes into stoppage time to Houston in their last game. Otherwise, they'd be perfect. So that's off to their best start ever. 3-game winning streak, I believe, is the longest in franchise history. And yeah, they were a mess. I mean, and I don't think anybody, even with the team, would disagree with that. But I think the team has figured out things on the field. Certainly, there's no doubt about that. But I think they figured things out from the way they're selling the team as well. And I say that because I went out in the preseason and talked to Mark Jones and Alex Straus. In fact, you were there that day, and both of them told me, like, look, all we're going to do is try to be better than last year, which that's not a heavy lift. They were terrible last year. All we want to do is be a little bit better. We're not going to predict a championship. We're not going to predict a long playoff run. We're just going to predict we're going to be better than last year. We're going to try to make the playoffs. And they were really soft pedaling everything. And then they get off to this tremendous start. And I was talking to someone on the team yesterday, and I said, Alex and Mark lied to me. They knew this team was really good. And they said, no, they didn't lie to you. They just have realized that Angel City, when they started, they had this mega ownership group with all these big name celebrities, Jennifer Gardner and Eva Longoria and America Ferrera and Julie Foudy and all. And so they kept selling themselves as NWSL 2.0. We figured it out. We're better than everybody. We're smarter than everybody. We're richer than everybody. And we're the richest women's sports franchise in the world for a long time. They didn't convert any of that to success on the field. And so I think going into this season, I think there was a collective decision like, hey, let's just calm down a little bit. Let's not talk about the team. Let's let the team perform, and then we'll explain what we did later. And I think that's the right thing. I think expectations were low given the first, 3 seasons that the team struggled. And so I think that's the right approach. And I think the team now is performing on the field in a way that they always expected to do. It just took a while to get here.
Mm-hmm. And then just real quick, the NWSL is on pause basically for the international break here for about 3 weeks, I want to say. Does that hurt or help or neither Angel City with 9 internationals gone? That obviously they're training, but they don't have those 9 players, participating in training. What do you make of this situation right now?
And by the way, I said they lost to Houston, they lost to Orlando, and they had to go to Orlando. So,
That's right.
Maybe that factored in too as a long trip. No, I think the break comes at the absolute worst time, because for the first time in franchise history, Angel City has momentum, a lot of momentum. And they then they had to take a break in the middle of this. And as you mentioned, a lot of their players did go off. The fact that players went off is good and bad. It's bad in that they're playing when everyone else is resting, but it's also good in that it gives the team this kind of oomph of, hey, we got all these international players. We got all these really good players, because of some Brazilian internationals, players playing for all kinds of different teams, South Korea, the U.S., Giselle Thompson, she has 2 goals for Angel City this season already. She's a defender, and she's second on the team in scoring. And by the way, she's playing with her sister Alyssa, former Angel City player, on the national team. And they have a third sister, Zoe, who is in high school now. I'm told she's better than either Giselle or Alyssa. So we're going to see her on the national team really soon. Have the U.S. ever had 3 sisters on the same national team roster? I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Maybe so. Wind up playing for Angel City too. But to answer your question, I think the break comes at the absolute worst time. There was going to be a break this year, but maybe not when Angel City was 3-1 and leading the league in scoring.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully they can pick up where they not right where they left off, but where they left off before the loss at Orlando. But listen, Kevin, I really appreciate your time. We had some technical difficulties today, so you stuck around for quite a while. So I'm extra appreciative today, and your insight excellent as always. Thank you so much for coming on today, LA Times, Kevin Baxter. Thank you very much.
All right, not only did we get a fantastic part 2 of the interview from Kevin Baxter, but look, Kara's back with us to talk Angel City FC, of course, along with Timmy K. Kara, international duty for 9 players for Angel City in this one. And just to go through it very quickly, Emily Sams and Giselle Thompson for the U.S. women's national team, Evelyn Shores and Riley Tiernan for the under-23s, Kennedy Fuller, the captain of the U.S. under-20s, Ari Borges and Miara News for Brazil, Svandis Jonsdottir for Iceland's national team, and Casey Fair for South Korea's women's national team. I got to ask you real quick about this one, Kara, because it continues to boggle my mind. Timmy talked about it last week. How does a player, the talent of Casey Fair, for these South Korean women, she gets start after start, minutes after minutes for the Korean women's national team? But since she joined Angel City in 2024, she's played a total of 5 matches for a total of 90 minutes. What's going on between that difference in play for her club and for the Korean women's national team?
I think it says less about Casey Fair and just more about the depth of this Angel City team and the quality of players that they've got on this side. Casey Fair is a great player. I think she'll have her chance, but right now, Alex Straus has got a winning formula. Why would he mess with it? I think he is, it's whatever he's doing is working. And it's a long season, especially coming out of an international break, and also these international breaks are also opportunities for these players to prove themselves on the international stage, show their club coach. It goes both ways, you know. National team coaches are watching how you perform on your club team, especially leading up to the World Cup, for example. Like all the players on LAFC right now are trying to prove themselves on their club team to make that national team. It goes the other way as well. If you can really show out for your national team, you can earn more of a responsibility on your club team as well, because they'll see something that maybe they hadn't seen before. I don't think that that's necessarily the case this time with Casey Fair, having lost, was it to Brazil?
Yeah, it was a rough match for Brazil. Yeah.
Or it was rough match for South Korea, against Brazil. Yes. So, you know, I don't know if this was her chance to really earn her spot in Angel City, but you know, I think it just says more about this club, because again, you've got players on this team who are starting for the U.S. women's national team amongst superstars. You know, Giselle Thompson started in that first match against Japan, was subbed into the second match. Emily Sam started in that first or second match. And they'll both likely get minutes in that third match against Japan. So, and then you've got Ari Borges scoring for Brazil in her first match, and Mayara Nu subbing in and having an impact. So there's a lot of competition within this Angel City team, and it's just all good news that you've got players being called into the national team, because that international experience is invaluable. And you better believe those players are going to bring that back to this Angel City team and raise the bar, set the tone. The expectation is going to be higher because it's just a different level playing internationally. And if they can bring even a little bit of that back to their club team, everybody benefits.
And Cara, you conveniently left out the 3-1 Canadian victory over the Korean women's national team, former Angel City player, because you know I like to poke those Angel City fans on occasion. Vanessa Gilles with 2 big goals for the Canadian women there over Casey Fair.
Vanessa Gilles will, I think, forever be the one that got away for Angel City.
Oh,
she is one of my favorite players for the Canadian national team. And the few times I got to see her play for Angel City, I was so happy. And I think she's doing very well. She's done very well for herself in Europe, but you know, I would definitely like to see her back in an Angel City jersey one day. I don't think that that's going to happen, but I can dream.
Awesome. Well, Cara, appreciate it. Thank you so much for talking some Angel City. And now here we go with Orange County Soccer Club, with the Orange County Soccer Club superfan himself, one Timmy K, Tim Kolatz. Tim, it must be nice with this view from the top for the County boys, grinding out a win. And when you can get a win like that after all of the travel and playing the way that they did against Tulsa, 1-0. And let me ask you first, Liam McKinnon appears to be that guy this season for the County boys. You actually mentioned this as we were wrapping up last season. You said, just wait, they're going to get this Liam McKinnon guy back and he's going to be special. Well, Timmy, he has thrust himself into the Golden Boot race. He has been their most consistent scorer on the season. Just a fantastic, almost feels like an addition this year, right, to Orange County Soccer Club.
Yeah, exactly. Because he didn't play much last year. He gets hurt right away. But this is what Orange County Soccer Club was expecting from him when they signed him after being the Golden Boot winner in USL League One. This is exactly the guy that they were looking to get, and this is exactly how he's doing it. And he's getting all kinds of different goals. The goal over Tustin was a screamer of a cross from Mohamedou Ward, who is playing unbelievable at that right back position or the left back when he's been interchangeable. And for him to get that ball and then just bury it from 5 yards out, it was great to see. And that's what a goal scorer does. He's got that touch and he puts it on his feet and in back of the twine.
Yeah, Orange County's still having some trouble getting some shots on target, just 3 in this one against Tulsa. But look, if you're scoring 1 out of every 3, I'm sure the County boys will take that as much as they can. Timmy, they're 4-1-2 on the season, top of the table in the West. And I think a lot of people look at Liam McKinnon, his 3 goals. He's just a couple back of the Golden Boot right now. But I also think a huge piece coming in, a player who has Major League Soccer experience, some veteran experience, although he's just 24 years old, smack in the middle of that midfield, alongside all those veterans that we talk about, alongside Hagart and Partita and everybody else who we talk about who's really done this for quite a while. You've got Marcelo Palomino, who has 2 assists this season and is just playing incredibly in the midfield.
Yeah, this is another big guy that's coming up huge for the County Boys is Palomino. And you look at him, you look at a guy like Garrison Tubbs, who we'll talk a little bit about later. You look at these guys that are just playing really, really well. And you mentioned it. He's got MLS experience. He's got super high level experience. And when you can bring that into a club that has been looking for that, you got the Hagarts, you got Silla and stuff like that. And you got Nico Benalcazar, who's now in his second full season with the club. You look at these guys and you just look at it. And then you got Alex Rando as the backstop. And he's just, the communication level is fantastic. It's not, hey, what are you doing over here? Hey, what are you doing over here? It's like, hey, I'm moving up. Come cycle around and come take over my spot. Those are the types of things that when you can see that happening on the pitch, it makes such a difference, and it makes it really, really fun to watch. And Tulsa had a heck of a time with it over the weekend.
Speaking of Alex Rando, one of the big key questions coming into the season is losing Colin Shutout Schuttler on the back line as the goalkeeper. It was thought, okay, let's see what happens with this goalkeeper position. Is there going to be a battle? Will Alex Rando step up and take it? Well, he's tied for first in all of USL Championship with 4 clean sheets. He's been asked to do a lot of work too, by the way, doing it while making a 4th place 18 saves in all of USL Championship. So he's been asked to do a lot, but this kid has looked very, very good. Now we're 7 matches into the season, and it appears to be Alex Rando all the way for the County Boys.
Yeah, for sure. When Shuttler left, he got an offer he couldn't refuse, right? He had to kind of go, which was great. He needed to move on from the club. He'd been a legend here, and just to get a different place to play, he needed to go. And then Tet looked ahead and he was thinking, it's going to be my team. But then when Alex comes in and just, Alex has just played unbelievable this entire season. Tet's got a few minutes, but the reality is it is Alex's team. And until somebody does something otherwise, I think they're going to ride that horse all the way to the end.
Yeah, and they're going to have to ride that at home there for the County Boys as they take on Lexington, who comes all the way across, even though they are part of the Western Conference. It'll be Lexington, and this is not a good Lexington club so far. 6 matches in. They've got a total of 5 points, 10th out of 12 in the West. So they'll have some veteran players out there. I know they've got Latif Blessing, formerly of LAFC, but he barely plays anymore. Right. But I may head down to the Champ and catch the Lexington match there against the County Boys Saturday, April 18th at home, the first place Orange County Soccer Club. All right, and here we go through the magic of editing. It's not just Timmy and I talking best 11. We brought Cara back as well here to talk about our most contentious segment here on Soccer in 60. This is Best 11, the 11 best performances from a single match across the Southland. It's Hugo Lloris in goal for his match against Cruz Azul. Maya Yoshida and Justin Hack for their matches against Austin, who they definitely played. Artem Smolyakov for his match against Portland. Ryan Porches for LAFC against Cruz Azul. Garrison Tubbs, Orange County Soccer Club at Tulsa. Eric Tommy for the Galaxy's match against Austin in the midfield, along with Jude Terry for his golazo against Portland, and Matty Chouanier for his effort for LAFC against Cruz Azul. And up top, our 2 up top, is Liam McKinnon for Orange County against Tulsa, and Marco Royce for the Galaxy against Austin. All right, Cara, we've got the ageless wonder in goal for LAFC. I mean, it's been clean sheet after clean sheet. Unfortunately, not a clean sheet against Cruz Azul, but another performance where he stood on his head when LAFC needed him.
Did he ever? And manager Marc Dos Santos called him Benjamin Button in the locker room after that win against Cruz Azul. And we all can understand why. I get it. To see a World Cup champion playing this well, I mean, incredible performance against Cruz Azul. It's just so impressive to see it at this point in his career. Lloris made 8 saves, 31 shots, 10 on target for Cruz Azul. Just shows how much they were hammering LAFC. And without Lloris, it could have been a very, very different result.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has played now 100 matches, oddly enough, for LAFC, just a little over 100. And those 8 saves, that is an LAFC high for Hugo Lloris. But I mean, look, he has won a World Cup and captained France for all those years. So I guess he knows what he's doing. For Orange County there, Timmy, it's Garrison Tubbs, a name we didn't talk about in the segment, but that gives Orange County 2 players on this week's list. Galaxy had 4, LAFC had 5. But talk to me about the performance of defender Garrison Tubbs in that match against Tulsa.
Yeah, you mentioned him when we were talking pre-show about, it sounds like he's a sheriff from the Old West, and there's a new sheriff on that back line for Orange County. And, having him come in and play as well as he had this season, again, I mentioned it briefly, but this is a big, big win to have Garrison Tubbs on the Orange County Soccer Club, and it's going to be big for this entire year and hopefully for a couple of years more.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to throw it back to Cara one more time real quick. Eric Tommy, who we saw go down with that hamstring injury, had an incredible goal for the Galaxy in that match and had been playing really well. Let me just get your thoughts on what the Galaxy are going to have to do. They got Joseph Paintsel back in that match against Toluca, but they lose Eric Tommy. What does that mean they're losing for the Galaxy?
I think it's a huge loss. Eric Tommy's engine is so impressive. He scored his first goal for Galaxy, and it just felt like, wow, this is just the first of many to come in that moment. So when seeing him go down with that hamstring injury feels like a bit of a gut punch. In that game against Austin, he traveled acres from the midfield into Austin's box and put that goal away. And we saw glimpses of the same actions against Toluca in the first leg, where he received that ball deep in the midfield and attacks the space and breaks those lines. And that's something that they've been missing in the center of the pitch without Ricky Puig. And so this felt like, while he is not the same type of player as Ricky Puig, maybe he will offer a little bit more strength in the midfield in his absence. So hopefully whatever the injury is, it's nothing long-term. But that actions that I'm talking about in the Toluca game, Greg Vanney definitely watched that back with Tommy and said, more of this. And then I think that's where we got that goal against Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how he got hurt, unfortunately, in the Toluca match, doing that same thing, pushing up for space. We could use more space to talk about all these fantastic teams here on Soccer in 60. But once again, another fantastic episode covering the 5 teams here in the Southland. Huge thank you to Timmy. Huge thank you to Cara. And, of course, to Gunnar and Christian on the back end. For Philly for joining us as well. And Rob Halone from the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast. And, of course, writer extraordinaire of all things soccer in the Southland, one Kevin Baxter, as our interview guest this week on Soccer in 60. We will see you all next week. We'll go through all 5 squads once again. Can't wait to have you back. This has been Soccer in 60, brought to you by